Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Millennium TV News. This is Shadman Khan with top stories. Blair warns of attack larger than Paris by Islamic State. UK divided over government vote for Syria airstrikes. Syrian First Lady makes rare public appearance. Hundreds dead in India floods. After 20 years in sentence in Peru, New York Lori Berenson comes home. Viewers, now the details. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair warns of terrorist attacks larger than the recent Paris attack if the threat of Islamic State is not seriously addressed. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair warned on Thursday of terrorist attack larger than those carried out in Paris, in which 130 people were killed if the threat of the Islamic State was not seriously addressed. Speaking at an event at US Library of Congress, Blair laid out what he said was a comprehensive strategy for defeating the Islamic State, which he must begin with the recognition of size of the challenge, but a continued flair of recognize the scale of the challenge and to construct means necessary to meet it that will result in terrorist attacks potentially worse than those in Paris, producing a backlash which the stigmatize the majority of decent law-abiding Muslims and put the very alliance that is so necessary at risk, creating a cycle of chaos and violence, said Blair. Blair has become the controversial figure in Britain for his support of the invasion of Iraq 2003. In October, Blair acknowledged that the invasion of Iraq played a part in the rise of Islamic State militant group and apologized for some mistakes in planning at the war. In Washington, D.C. on Thursday, Blair said that the Islamic State must be fought military ideologically, but destroying the so-called caliphate is an essential part of destroying the concept of its unifying structure of extremist groups which underpins so much of the jihadist propaganda. It is also essential for security, a just outcome in Syria, which in turn, of course, is the only solution to refugee crisis. The British public appear divided in the wake of a House of Commons vote in favor of airstrikes on Islamic State militants in Syria. In London, news of airstrikes greeted mourning commuters, many of whom had mixed views on their parliament's vote to join US-led air campaign against Islamic State in Syria. Civil servant Sally Taylor saying, "Yeah, I think we should chip in generally because other countries are, and I think we should play our part as well." Civil servant Lizzie Jones saying, "I think there is going to be a lot of innocent and that are actually overseer, they aren't going to be fault in his and they are going to die because of us. Effectively, this is our decision and we're killing them. That's how I see it." British bombers made their first strike early Thursday morning, hitting oil fields in the British Council. British Minister David Cameron said were being used to fund attacks on the West. He warns the road ahead will be complex and difficult. Prime Minister British David Cameron saying, "We are going to need to be patient and persistent. It is going to take time. It is complex. It is difficult what we are asking our pilots to do, and our thought should be and with them and their families. And we commence this is important work." But in Aleppo, Syria rebels and activists alike wondered why Britain wasn't taking action instead of work. But in Aleppo, Syria rebels and activists alike wondered why Britain wasn't taking action instead against Syria President Bashar al-Assad. Syrian activist Ahmed Hussein saying, "I am lost for words and don't know what to say on this." Syrian First Lady Asma al-Assad visits disabled children in Damascus in a relatively rare public appearance. In a relatively rare public appearance, Syria's First Lady Asma al-Assad visited an Al-Amal Syrian disabled organization to mark Disability Day on Thursday. Footage of her visit offer a rare glimpse into everybody's life that continues in areas of country's capital. Much of the country lies in ruin while a 4-year-old civil war continues to wreak destruction of country. A British-educated former investment banker, Asma cultivated the image of a glamorous yet serious-minded woman with a strong Western-inspired values who was meant to humanize the increasingly secretive and isolated Assad family. Assad himself saying he is fighting an insurrection involving foreign-backed terrorists. Historic flooding in southern India has left hundreds of people dead and thousands of stranded. The Indian military has been mobilized to help in the rescue effort, but with more rain expected, the outlook is grim. Tamil Nadu in southern India is a disaster zone. The heaviest rain for more than a century have inundated the state, swamping the city of Chennai, leaving the huge toll of death and destruction. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has blamed the climate change of deluge, came to himself and assure beleaguered residents of government support. But with the rescue efforts flattering, the task ahead is huge. Lakes and reservoirs have burst their banks. Thousands of people had to be rescued from their partially submerged homes, and thousands more still waiting for help. Drinking water and fresh food is extremely short supply. For many, it's despite fight for survival, and while rescue workers and the army are doing what they can, there's more rain in the forecast and probably worse to come. New Yorker Lori Berenson returns to her hometown from Peru after serving a 20-year sentence for supporting the Tupac Amaru revolutionary movement. After 20 years of sentence in Peru for helping Maximus insurgents, Lori Berenson finally walked free on U.S. soil. The New Yorker made her exit from JFK Airport Thursday, keeping quiet mostly, but with one thing to say. Lori Berenson saying, "I'm very grateful to everyone who has helped me, and I'm happy to be with my family. That is my only comment. Thank you very much." She is among a number of people in Peru finishing sentence for crime linked to the country's civil war, in which an estimated 69,000 people died. Back in 1996, Berenson was found guilty on supporting the guerrilla group Tupac Amaru Revolutionary Movement, or MRTA, but she was never convicted of participating in any violent acts. Her family maintained she was a social activist and never took up arms during the social unrest. On Wednesday, after 15 years of prison, partly in the solitary confinement, the past 5 years on parole, Berenson made her way through a Peru airport for New York with one-way ticket to our country and into freedom. We're back in a moment with the headlines here. Torrential rain forced residents from their homes in northern Peru. Clashes after migrant killed on electric fence. Turkey will regret what they said by Putin. California suspect had cache of ammunition when killed, said by police. Viewers, let's move on to the next news. Hundreds of villagers in northern Peru have been forced from their homes after torrential rain sent rivers pouring over their banks. This woman says flood water have swallowed up everything her family owned. Flood victims, Flor Armas saying, "We have lost animals, blanket, mattresses, everything is gone. The water came at night, took everything. We were unable to get anything out." Peru's Civil Defense Institute saying the flood has spread across 5 provinces, sending villagers scrambling to higher ground with whatever they can carry. Forecasters say that the rain were brought by the El Nino weather phenomenon, predicted this year would be the most intense in more than 15 years, with more rain expected. Clashes broke out on the Greek-Macedonian border on Thursday after a migrant was found electrocuted by border fence. A migrant is electrocuted on a border fence at the Greek-Macedonian border on Thursday, during second successive day on clashes between police and migrants standard for weeks in Greece. This man was among some 1,500 migrants from Iran, Pakistan and Morocco who have been stuck in the near border between the two countries after Balkan states last month began blocking passage to all immigrants except the flying violence in Syria, Iraq and Afghanistan. While migrants' deaths at the sea are common, this death is believed to be the first casualty along the Greek-Macedonian land border. The IOM says officials are trying to persuade those stuck in the squalid border camps to apply asylum in Greece, but these migrants want to head to countries such as Germany, which was more and generous economic benefit. Russian President Vladimir Putin warns Turkey of greater economic sanction in retaliation for shooting down as Russia jet near the Syrian-Turkish border. The Ukraine-Russian border has become ground zero for escalating spat between Moscow and Turkey. Hundreds of trucks carrying Turkish export now blocked from entering Russia, the result of the new economic sanction imposed by Russian President Vladimir Putin against Ankara for the downing of a Russian warplane near the Syrian-Turkish border last week. In his annual State of the Nation speech, Putin warned Turkey to expect even more sanction. Russian President Vladimir Putin saying, "But if anyone thinks that they have committed this awful war crime, the murder of our people, that they are to get away with some measure concerning their tomatoes or some limit on constructions and other sectors, they are sorely mistaken. We will surely remind them what to did with more than once, and will regret what they did more than once. And we do know that what needs to be done." Police said that the two suspects in San Bernardino mass shooting had more than 1,600 rounds of ammunition in their SUV when they were killed in a shootout with police, the two suspects who shot dead 14 people in San Bernardino. Police searched a house linked into the family of a man implication in deadly San Bernardino shooting that claimed at least 14 lives. The suspected shooters who were later killed in a gun battle with officers have been named as Syed Rizwan Farouk and Tashfin Malik. Police say that the couple may have been married or engaged. Neighbors near the property being searched in Redlands were shocked and surprised by what happened. Stephanie Sianko saying, "This is the nice neighborhood, so to hear that there could be happening violent people who wants to commit harm or bring harm upon us right in our backyard, it is just crazy."
This is a nice neighborhood, so to hear that there could be violent people who want to, commit harm or bring harm upon us right in our backyard it's just crazy.
It doesn't happen in a small town like this, really. It's a tiny little city. Not much goes on around here.
Clint Roseling saying, "It doesn't happen in a small town like this, really. It is tiny little city. Not much goes on around here." Police say Farouk was an employee of San Bernardino County's health department. They say the shooting happened at a party for department staff, which he had left in apparent anger beforehand. South Africans welcome an appeal court ruling overturning Oscar Pistorius' conviction for culpable homicide and finding him guilty for murder. Judge saying, "I conclude with the following orders to be made. Olympic athlete Oscar Pistorius could be heading back to jail after an appealing court raised an earlier manslaughter verdict to murder for shooting dead his model girlfriend Reva Stenkum on Valentine's Day in 2013. Justice Eric Litch saying, the accused conviction and sentence on count on one set aside and replaced with the following: guilty of murder with the accused having had criminal intents in form of dolus eventualis. Outside the court, supporters celebrated the new ruling, saying the earlier culpable homicide verdict for which Pistorius received a 5-year sentence wasn't justice. South African man said Fulo Sobostia saying, "Today's judgment, I think it goes far in making sure that the people cannot just kill the other people and kill self-defense and give all false reasons. Has been served. My brother, that's the long, the short, which I can tell you." With the new conviction, Pistorius could be now face jail time up to 15 years. The athlete is expected to be sentenced the new murder conviction by a lower court at a date still to be determined. RAF Tornado jets have carried out the first British bombering run over Syria. The Minister of Defense has confirmed the airstrikes were carried out within hours by vote of MPs and common to back extending operation against Islamic State IS from being neighboring Iraq. 4 RAF Tornado jets, which carry a range of munition including paveway IV, guided bombs and precision-guided brimstone missiles, took off from Aktori base in Cyprus, but defense officials refused to be drawn and the target of their mission. A Ministry of Defense spokesman said the stories had been returned and the first offensive operation over Syria have conducted strikes. Australia says it is to intensify its search for missing Malaysian airplanes flight MH370 which vanished in 2014 with 239 passengers on the crew aboard. Malaysian Airlines flight MH370 and its 239 passengers and crew vanished in March last year. Now Australia, which is leading to the most expensive underwater search ever conducted, says it will intensify operation in remote southern Indian Ocean. Australian Defence Minister Darren Chester saying, "We think that the search of the whole 120,000-kilometer search area is likely to take until about June of next year." Australian government says the number of vessels searching for the jet will be doubled to 4. And they say analysis of flight data, path and information gleaned from satellite networks has helped the narrow down the search area. A piece of plane was washed out on the French island under Reunion in July. It was the first direct evidence that the aircraft had crashed into sea, but not further trace has been found. Some of the heaviest rainfall to hit part of southern India in a century finally stops, leaving widespread flooding and devastation. The torrential downpours finally stopped on Wednesday, but the resulting floods will bring chaos to Chennai city in the southern India for some time yet. The area has been suffering its heaviest rainfall in over a century. Thousands have been forced to flee their homes. The railway stations among the buildings turned into makeshift shelters. Rail services are still standing visitors from outside along with local residents. Flights to the city flooded international airports are also hold on. The airports now officially closed until the December 6th. Chennai is also a major center of car manufacturing and IT outsourcing for Daimler, Hyundai, Nissan, and all the other workers to stay at home. US outsourcing firm Cognizant has shut its 11 local offices. Weather forecaster says the seasonal northeast monsoon is to be blamed for the flooding, amplifying this year El Nino, a warming of eastern Pacific Ocean which affects climate. The move will save around 100 million tons of raw coal and cut carbon dioxide emission by 180 million tons annually. The official Xinhua News agency quoted that the State Council or Cabinet as saying, by 2020, China will have shut down plants that do not meet the energy saving standards, according to a statement from the Council, which came a day after Beijing was blanketed in choking smoke. China is the world's biggest polluter, and its emission of the greenhouse gases that cause climate change, along with its ability to fulfill its promises, are due to be a central issue at a Paris Climate Summit. However, the saving of carbon dioxide emission by 180 million tons annually in a fraction of the Asian giant's total emission of the greenhouse, estimated to have reached 9 to 10 billion tons in 2013. Likewise, the 100 million tons reduction of raw coal consumption is only a small proportion in China's annual coal use, which hits 4.2 billion tons in 2013. Customs officials have seized contraband gold weighing about 37 kg at Dhaka airport. The gold bars worth about Taka 180 million were found abandoned on board at Emirates flight that flew in from Dubai on Thursday night. No arrests have been made so far. Viewers, now the business news. The S&P 500 had its biggest loss since last September. European Central Bank action disappointed investors, and Federal Chief Janet Yellen's comments suggested a rate hike this month. Blamed central bankers for the steep draw in the Wall Street, US, and European equities sold off after the European Central Bank's new policy measures disappointed investors. Couple that with Federal Chair Janet Yellen's upbeat economic view, the further signal a rate hike in December. Westpullet Capital Jeff Tomaso saying the ECB, the market are rearing because they expected more stimulus to come, and they got it, but they didn't get as much as they wanted. So that's why you're having the market sell off today. Investors put Kroger's shares in their shopping carts. The US largest supermarket operator's quarterly profit rose sharply on higher sales and lower costs. Mixed news of the economy. The US service sector cooled in November, and jobless claims rose last week. But the news order for manufactured goods rose in October. The job cuts fell to their lowest level in 14 months. In Europe, shares experienced their deepest drop in 4 months. YouTube is aiming to get rights for streaming TV series and movies for its new paid subscription service. Watch out Hulu, Netflix, and Amazon. YouTube is beefing up streaming. According to the Wall Street Journal, the world's largest online video service by viewership is seeking streaming right for its new paid subscription service called YouTube Red. Executives of YouTube, which is the unit of Alphabet, reportedly met his Hollywood studios and production companies to consider pitches and negotiation in license for new content. The $9.99 a month service launched in October offers ad-free videos, music, and streaming. The company is still deciding how much content to license. It wants a big collection of original and licensed programming. The journal says YouTube is tapping Google Play's existing relationship with the movie studios and owner of premium video content to negotiate streaming deals. Viewers, now the science and technology news. The world's first sonic trader beam has been devised by researchers from University of Bristol and Sussex, moving from realm of science fiction into science facts. Jim Dury said from itself, it's the world's first sonic tractor beam created by researchers at the University of Sussex and Bristol. It lifts, moves, and objects using sound waves. Arias Marza saying, what we have here is what we call an acoustic hologram. We have a flat surface and we are creating a 3D acoustic field that can surround a particle. The acoustic field is created by individually controlling of 64 miniature loudspeakers at a frequency of 40 kHz. This creates high-pitched and high-intensive sound waves that can levitate polisher beads, keeping them in a pace moving averting them. The team has been creating three different shapes of acoustic force field. The researchers are certainly thinking big as as PhD student at University of Bristol and lead author of study, saying, basically one of our future projects aims at levitating something that like a beach ball 10 meters away. We think we could very usefully of zero gravity environment like underwater or in the International Space Station. If you check the videos, everything is floating around. The water, the nuts, screws, everything adrift uncontrollably. So if you can create fake gravity with the device, it would help a lot of astronauts. But the team also wants to miniature the technology for use in its medical procedures. Until recently, the concept of tractor beam was confined to science fiction like Star Trek, but by using the sound rather than the light to create a real vision life, the researchers have been boldly where no scientist has gone before. Cities could use water from rivers and sea to stay cool as the climate heats, city mayors have been told. Carbon emission from air condition are expected to soar as temperature climb and people become richer. But at a Global Mayor Summit, Paris is showcasing a simple technology using water pipped from CN to cool apartments near the Champs-Élysées. London Mayor Boris Johnson said he wanted to London to follow suit by cooling buildings using water from Thames. I don't like to admit, but French are ahead of us in this, he confessed. The system works by taking water from the river and piping it around people's homes like ordinary piped water air condition. In summer, a heat is pumped and used to make water even colder by employing technology similar to a fridge. The mayor's meeting in Paris City Hall is timed to coincide with the UN Climate Summit. It brings together half of the mega 80 cities mayors who are working together to tackle a climate change. Civil Liberators Group of the Electrical Frontier Foundation (EFF) accused Google of collecting and storing data from children using its product at school. It asked the U.S. Federal Trade Commission (FTC) to investigate, but Google said it has used the data only to improve its product and services and not to target advice in line with commitments. In a complaint filed with authorities earlier this week, the EFF said Chromebooks supplied to school as part of its Google Apps for Education project came with a feature designed to synchronize the Chrome browser across devices, which transferred students without permission. It said data collected included records of every internet site students visit and every search team they use, the results click on videos they look for watch on YouTube, and their saved passwords. The group alleged Google used the information for its own purposes such as improving Google products, as well as to target adverts on GFA, non-core apps such as Chrome and YouTube. Viewers, now the sports news. As member of FIFA's executive committee, prepared to vote on reforming soccer scandal-plagued governing bodies, Swiss government agents swept into a luxury hotel before dawn for a second wave of arrests on corruption charges in the wake of another sweeping indictment by U.S. prosecutors. 5 current and former members of FIFA ruling executive committee were among 16 people men charged with bribes and kickbacks in a 92-count indictment unsealed Thursday that took down an entire generation of soccer leaders in South America, a bedrock of FIFA World Cup history. The betrayal of trust set forth truly outrageous, U.S. Attorney General Loretta Lynch said. The scale of corruption alleged herein is unconscionable. In addition, guilty pleas were unsealed for former CONCACAF President Jeffrey Webb and former executive committee member Luis Bedoya. The 236-page suspending indictment was handed by a grand jury in New York on November 25th. 11 current and former members of FIFA Executive Committee have been charged in the investigation which alleges hundreds of millions of dollars in illegal payments over the past quarter century that involves use of U.S. banks and meetings on American soil. The last 2 presidents of CONCACAF and CONMEBOL have been indicated. The message from the announcement should be clear that every culpable individual who remains the shadow hoping the evade ongoing investigation who will be not wait for us and you will not escape our focus, Lynch said. Webb, a Cayman Island citizen who has been released on bail, is largely restricted to his home in Stone Mountain, Georgia, pleaded guilty to racketeering conspiracy, 3 counts of wire fraud conspiracy, and 3 counts of money laundering conspiracy. He agreed to forfeit more than $6.7 million. One woman pleaded guilty. Joanna Dennis, co-founder of the owner New Jersey-based International Soccer Marketing Incorporation, admitted to wire fraud conspiracy and filing false tax return and agreed to forfeit $2 million. FIFA President Sepp Blatter, elected May 29 to a fifth team running through 2020, said June 2 would have leave office and a successor is chosen. Blatter was provisionally suspended by FIFA on October 8, 90 days as a part in separate investigation into a $2 million payment in 2011 European soccer head Michael Platini, who helped to succeed when FIFA 2009 members nation vote for February 26. Blatter is also under Swiss criminal proceedings. Blatter and Platini facing lifetime bans from soccer ethics hearing expected this month. Lynch would not respond directly to Blatter's allegation that inquiry resulted from U.S. anger at losing at Qatar's when executive committee chose the 2022 World Cup's host. I think he's probably spending a lot of money trying to reading them. The Indecent, she said during a news conference, we still have a number of avenues under investigation, Lynch said. South Africa's trouble against spin continued with another objecting batting performance, one that stabbed 49.3 overs in the second day at Firoz Shah Kotla on a track that was nowhere near as spiteful as Nagpur on Mohali. This was just poor batting against accurate bowling led by Ravindra Jadeja, 5 by 30. Making South Africa collapse to 121 all more alarming was that it took place on the same track on which Anjike Rahane stroked his way to a silken 127, the first century of the series in the longest way of a player has batted, while adding the highest partnership of the series 98 with Rahul Ashwin, who scored 56. Such as a mixed batting effort also pushed the shade of some excellent bowling by Kel Abbott, whose figure was 24.5 and 7. Gave the visitors something to take from the otherwise chastening in 117.5 overs in the field. Rahane's innings ended when he drove Imran Tahir in the air-covered leg spinner the 5th wicket in his 10th over. Moments before the lunch, he dumped Tahir for 6 over in the wickets to become the first overseas fast bowler since Courtney Welch in 1987 to claim 5 for a Kotla. South Africa's new opening pair, Elgar and Tembra Bavuma, a middle-order batsman promoted in open in place of Sitian Van Zyl, had few troubles against Umesh Yadav and Ishant Sharma, who bowled for the first 9 overs in tandem. But a change of ends in Umesh after the ordinary over produced the first wicket when Elgar, 17 of 50 balls, pushing a full-pitch delivery postie, Jadeja triple strike pegged South Africa back. In first 5 overs, he accounted Bavuma, Hashim Amla and Fatfu places to leave South Africa at 62 by 4. A lead-and-footed Bavuma missed an arm ball, Amla edged a cut and Du Plessis' second ball, paddled an easy catch to an alert Rahane's running around from slip. Amla's dismissal extended a particularly woeful match for the skipper, who dropped 2 catches during India's innings, the second of which Rahane alive on 76. Leaving behind their disappointing league campaign, India produced an inspired performance to upstage the world's number 4 Great Britain 2-1, entered the semi-finals of the Hockey World HWL final at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Stadium on Thursday. World number 6 India came into the match as underdogs have finished the last in Pool B with just 1 point. Great Britain on the other side were routed as the favourites and topped by Pool A with 2 wins and a draw. But having faced a flag in the last few days of her inconsistent showing in the league stage, the Indian came out purpose even though Great Britain had their better share of ball possession and circle entries. India secured the just 1 penalty corner in the match, which was beautifully contracted by V.R. Raghunath in the 90th minute before the Talwinder Singh doubled the lead in 39th minute. It was easy for Indian as Great Britain fought hard and tried to forge a comeback into the match in 4th and final quarter when Simon Mantelli scored from a penalty corner in the 52nd minute. Great Britain earned S6 penalty corners in the match but made use of just 1. India started on a bright note and enjoyed the majority possession, and in the opening 2 quarters, the India looks far more organized and coordinated and the attacks rival Citadel with purpose. Swiss police arrested the 2 top soccer bosses in America on Thursday on suspicion of taking millions of dollars bribe linked to the television rights widening a graft probe in the World Soccer's governing body. Swiss police on Thursday arrested the top 2 soccer bosses in America as part of widening probe into the corruption and the World Soccer's Federation. FIFA police arrested Alfredo Howitt on Honduras, a vice president of FIFA and acting president of CONCACAF. the Federation and the Administrative Soccer of North and Central America and the Caribbean also arrested at Juan Angel Nepal of Paraguay, the head of the South American Soccer Federal Conbel. They were detained in the pre-dawn raids at the request of U.S. officials as the part of ongoing investigation into the bribery in soccer world. According to the request of U.S. officials, part ongoing investigation in the bribery world, Falcao Galli at Switzerland Federal Office of Justice. In May, U.S. authorities charged 14 officials and sporting marketing executive with paying or taking bribes. Hart is the third consecutive CONCACAF head to be indicted as a part of investigation. The two arrested men and their representative were not immediately available for comment. Viewers, let's have a look in the Millennium TV News recap. Blair warns of attack larger than Paris by Islamic State. UK divided over government vote for Syria airstrikes. Syrian First Lady makes rare public appearance. Hundreds dead in India floods. After 20 years in sentence in Peru, New York Lori Berenson comes home. You're up to date with our top stories so far here in Millennium TV News, and don't forget to log in to www.millenniumtv.net. Thank you and Allah Hafiz.